Let's talk CRM.
You're a voice actor. You're an entrepreneur. You're a VOPRENEUR. Welcome to the Everyday VOPRENEUR podcast, your guide through the business of voiceover.
You have a great website, right? Well, make sure you host it at some place that doesn't suck. Hey, it's Brad Newman, fellow VO Pro for 28 years and owner of upperlevelhosting.com. People ask why us, and that's simple. We make it easy, respect your time, save you money, and just make all the magic happen. You don't need to know all the tech stuff when it comes to hosting your website. We got you. Ask around. Tens of thousands of client interactions later, and 6 years of amazing customer service, and not a single negative complaint, ever. upperlevelhosting.com.
The VOPRENEUR podcast. Hey, it doesn't suck.
Not as funny as Conan. Not as cute as Seth Meyers. Not as smart as Colbert. But he's one of us, and that counts for something. Here's Mark Scott, the original Everyday VOPRENEUR.
Hello and welcome to the Everyday VOPRENEUR podcast, your guide through the business of voiceover. I'm Mark Scott, the original Everyday VOPRENEUR, with another actionable, practical, advice-filled episode for you on the VOPRENEUR podcast. We're continuing on with the tools series. So over the past number of episodes, I've been diving into a lot of the different tools that I use to help me run my business, whether that's from a time management perspective, a graphic design perspective, the tools that I'm using to get paid, and of course the tools that I'm using in my studio every day in order to be able to run my voiceover business. A lot of voice actors are always curious about what I'm using, and so I hope that this series has been very helpful for you. We're going to continue on this week talking about one of my favorite subjects, which is CRM. Now, just before we get there, I want to remind you that Voiceover Marketing Playbook version 3.0 is going to launch officially on April 11th, 2023. I have been working a lot of overtime, a lot of evenings and a lot of weekends trying to get Playbook 3.0 ready to go for the deadline, completely revamping the course for the first time in several years, all updated, refreshed information, all designed to help you find your own leads, build your own client base, and become the consistently working voice actor that you want to be. Playbook 3.0, again, will be available from April 11th through the 20th, 2023, and you'll be able to get all of the details at voiceovermarketingplaybook.com. So, let's talk about CRM, shall we? For those of you that maybe aren't familiar with CRM, it stands for Customer Relationship Management Software. And there are a lot of different, very popular CRM tools that are out there. You can find basic CRM tools that you can use for free, ranging right up through to enterprise-grade CRM systems like Salesforce, which maybe some of you are using in your corporate job, for example. I settled on Nimble, and in preparation for this episode, I actually went back because I wasn't entirely sure how long that I had been using Nimble, but I went back and discovered that I actually started using Nimble in 2015. I didn't think that it had been that long, but it has. And it has absolutely become one of the most important parts of my business. Now, I've personally played around with a lot of different CRMs over the years, and there are things about some that I like, there are things about some that I don't like, but every single time I ultimately end up coming back to Nimble. So let's talk about briefly what a CRM can do for you. Really what it comes down to is its database management. The larger that your voiceover business grows as you're doing your own self-marketing, or at least I'm assuming that you're doing your own self-marketing, obviously every time you contact somebody new, that person goes into your database. The larger that your database grows, the harder it becomes to keep everything straight. Who's a lead? Who's a prospect? Who's a client? Who's in the commercial space? Who's in the e-learning space? Who's in the animation space? When's the last time I contacted somebody? All of these sorts of things become things that we lose our ability to do. You can only track it through your inbox or through a spreadsheet for so long. One of the first pieces of advice that I give to voice actors when I do one-on-one coaching with them, and they're saying, I need to do some marketing and where should I start? One of the first questions that I ask is, are there clients, people who have hired you for voiceover work, in your database that you have not contacted in more than 6 months? And a lot of times, voice actors can't answer that question. And the reason why they can't answer that question is because they don't have a system in place that helps them to figure that out. If you have clients in your database that you haven't been in touch with in more than 6 months, chances are you're leaving money on the table because you're running the risk that they're going to forget about you. A CRM can help make sure that they don't forget about you. So, I settled on Nimble in 2015, and really the biggest reason why was simply this. I have the kind of personality that would allow me to spend a year deep diving into every CRM known to man, trying to figure out which one was actually the best. And after that year was up, I probably still wouldn't have made a decision because I'd still be trying to finish my deep dive. And so because I didn't want to lose a year of my life and my business, somebody recommended Nimble to me. And I said, all right, I'm going to play with Nimble and I'm not going to give up until either I figure out how to make it do what I need it to do, or I completely decide that I can't make it do what I need it to do. And so that was it. Rather than spending a year researching all of these other different CRMs, I decided that I was just going to spend a year learning how to properly use a CRM. And as it turned out, it didn't take me nearly that long to be able to figure it out. But I settled on Nimble, and I have never looked back. And so what I want to do in this episode is I want to give you 10 different reasons why I love my CRM. Now, these reasons are all going to be specific to Nimble because they are features that are specific to Nimble. But some of these features, I think, will help you in trying to determine what's the right CRM for you. Because maybe it's Nimble, but maybe it's not. There are a lot of other options that are out there for CRM. Upper-level CRM is very popular. HubSpot offers a free version of their CRM that is very popular. I know voice actors that use Cloze CRM, which is CLOZE. I know voice actors that are using Zoho. I know voice actors that are using Streak. So there's a lot of different options that are out there. But as you're trying to determine what's the right fit for me for a CRM, maybe taking note of some of the features that really are important to me will help you to figure out what's going to be important to you. So here we go. 10 reasons why I love Nimble and why it has become my CRM of choice. Number one on the list, of course, is database management. Not only do you have all of the standard fields that would come with any CRM, the name, the job title, the address, the phone number, the website URL, the social media profile links, and all of those sorts of things. But Nimble also gives me the ability to put in some custom fields. And there are 3 fields in particular that are really important to me. And those fields are lead type, lead status, and lead source. So let me very quickly give you a rundown. Lead type, this is where I classify, okay, this is a lead, a prospect, a client, a service provider, a female VO, a male VO. So what type of lead are they? Lead status, are they an active lead? Are they an inactive lead? Are they a dead lead? Those are the primary things that I'm classifying. And then lead source, that gives me an opportunity to put in where I found them. Did they come from LinkedIn? Did they come from my direct marketing efforts? Did they come from a list that I got from my freelance lead generator? Did they come from Instagram? Did they come from a referral? Did they contact me directly through my website? And that's kind of nice just because it gives you a sense of where your work is coming from. And as you start to figure out where your work is coming from versus maybe where it's not, it can help you to figure out how to better direct your efforts and your attention. So that advanced database management is really important for me. In fact, those few categories just in and of themselves, particularly the lead type, is one of the most important aspects of Nimble for me. So being able to sort out my database so I can look at any person of the thousands of people that are in there and I can immediately know this is a client and they are an active client and they came from LinkedIn. I find that information really helpful. So that's number 1 on the list. Number 2 on the list goes along with that, and that is tagging. So with tagging, it gives me the ability to customize each entry even a little bit further. So let's just say that I have, Bob Smith in my CRM, and I know that Bob does commercials, he does training videos, and he does corporate videos. And this is what I've learned about Bob from his website and from conversations that I've had with Bob. So I can now tag Bob with commercial, with training video, and with corporate video. That becomes another way that I can search my database, being able to search with those tags that I have put into my system, which is really good. So now I know that Bob does corporate videos, he does commercials, and he does training videos. So the next thing that I can do, or I like to do, is I like to tag based on geography. And I use basic geographic region tags. So United States, Canada, Europe, Middle East. Because, great example, let's say I want to send out a happy Thanksgiving message. Well, Thanksgiving in Canada happens in October. Thanksgiving in the United States happens in November. Why would I want to send Bob, who's based in the US, a happy Thanksgiving message in October when it's not relevant to him? So by sorting out and tagging people with geographic regions, I can now target just my Canadian people in my database and send a happy Thanksgiving message in October. Or I could target just my American leads and send a happy Thanksgiving message in November. So tagging gives me the ability to sort my database even further, but it also gives me the ability to do what I say number 3 on my list is, which is targeted campaigns. So what do I want to do a targeted campaign for? Let's just say I've worked with Ann Gangusa, and together we have produced a brilliant corporate narration demo. And I want to let my database know that that new corporate narration demo is available for them to download and to listen. But I don't want to send that to everybody in my database because the people that are in my database that are only doing explainer videos, they probably don't care about my corporate narration demo. Or the people in my database that are hiring me for IVR, they probably don't care about my corporate narration demo. So because of the lead fields in Nimble and because of the tagging that I'm able to do in Nimble, I could go through and I could create a list that is clients who are active or inactive, who I haven't contacted in more than 30 days, who are tagged with corporate video, and who are tagged in the United States, for example. That's a very specific, very targeted audience. And now I can send those people an email letting them know about my new corporate narration demo, but not sending it to people who otherwise probably don't care. And so the more data points that you can put into your database, obviously the greater your search capabilities and the more targeted you can be with your marketing. That's one of the reasons I absolutely love Nimble, because I can break down my database into a lot of very specific things just based on all of the advanced search capabilities of it. And that is something that is common in a lot of CRMs, but it is something that I would definitely be looking deeper into if I'm going to choose a CRM. Does it give me the ability to get really specific, really drilled down in the searches that I want to be able to do? But not only that, does it give me the ability to do those types of searches that I want to be able to do? Because I am able to put in lead details, I am able to do all of the advanced tagging, etc., etc., etc. That brings me to number 4 on the list, which goes along, again, with all of these different things, and that is group messaging. Within Nimble, you have the ability to send, depending on the package that you've signed up for, but most packages come with a minimum of 100 group messages a day. So now that I've done a very specific and drilled down search and come up with a very targeted list of people that I want to reach out to, with one simple click, I can select them all and opt to send a group message. So now I can write that group message. I can personalize it to a degree using what are called merge tags. And if you're familiar with email marketing at all, you're probably somewhat familiar with merge tags. They're the little tags that you can put into an email that will repopulate the message with the individual's first name or with the company name or things of that nature. So I can now send a group message, up to 100 of those a day, to my very specific and targeted list. And so this can be really handy. Now, as much as I try to do my marketing on an individual basis, as much as I am trying to personalize all of the emails that I'm sending, there are absolutely times and places where group messages are appropriate, and something like sending out a message about a new demo, for example, is one of those times where you could absolutely do it. And so I love the fact that Nimble gives me the ability to do that. Number 5 on the list is automated touch cycles. This is one of the most important aspects, I think, of any CRM. And if your CRM doesn't give you this ability, I would question whether or not it's going to be the right fit. So what's an automated touch cycle? Basically, within Nimble, the way it works is there's a clock. It's a little clock icon. If you go to Bob Smith's page on Nimble, where you've set up for Bob, there's a little clock icon. And if you click on that clock icon, it comes up with a drop-down menu, and it allows you to set an automated reminder for daily, weekly, monthly, quarterly, annually, or you can even set custom automated reminders. What that's going to do is, let's just say you set it to monthly. So every 30 days, Nimble is going to prompt you that it's time to reach out to Bob again because it's been 30 days since you reached out to Bob again. This is one of those things where when you're working out of your inbox, or maybe even if you're trying to work off of a spreadsheet, it's really hard to keep this straight. It's really hard to not forget people. It's really hard to not have parts of your database slip through the cracks totally inadvertently. And so by having this automated touch cycle system, I can go into Nimble on any given day and I can see all of my red clocks. A green clock in Nimble represents people you are up to date with. A red clock indicates people that you are not. So I can log in on any given day and I can see where my red clocks are and I could be like, okay, that's a really good place that I'm going to start focusing on my marketing today. So I think it's absolutely essential that your CRM comes with some sort of automated touch cycle reminder system so that you can stay up to date with your database. Next up on the list is deals tracking. So most CRMs, because they are a sales management tool, most CRMs will come with some form of deals tracking. And in Nimble, there's a feature that is actually called deals. Now, although deals is really designed for, again, tracking sales, I've been able to customize it a little bit to track my auditions. Now, I don't track every audition. I do not track casting site auditions, although I'm not actually on casting sites. When I was, I still didn't track them. And I do not track my agent auditions because those are auditions that I really have no control over ultimately. But the auditions and the projects that I'm working on directly with clients, I can track those ones. And so I can put them into a custom pipeline. And I can look at my deals pipeline on any given day and I can see these are auditions that are in the quote stage. These are projects that are in the audition stage. These are projects that are in the pending stage. These are projects that are in the active stage, right? So I can tell what jobs I'm working on, what jobs I'm waiting for quote approvals, what jobs are kind of sitting in limbo right now. I can see that overview. And then that can also give me an opportunity to see, okay, you know what? I quoted this job 2 days ago. Let me follow up and see whether or not they've made a decision on the quote. And so again, it just becomes a way of keeping track of things so that things don't fall through the cracks. When you don't have a system for this, it's really easy for you to submit auditions and then forget about them because now you're focused on the next day, the next audition, whatever. So it's nice to be able to have a system where I can see all of that laid out and I can keep track. And then it also gives me a frame of reference because I can click onto Bob Smith's contact page in Nimble and I can see a history of the projects that I've worked on with Bob, which can also be really helpful. So I really, really like that feature of it. And then to go along with that, I like the fact that Nimble gives me the ability to do tasks. Now, although I use Asana for my task and project management, which I talked about in an earlier episode of the Tools series, the tasks feature in Nimble can come in handy for some really strategic purposes. So a couple of examples of this. I reach out to a new lead and that lead says, you know what, Mark, we really loved your stuff. We'd love to have the opportunity to work with you. We've got nothing right now, but we do have a project coming up in May if you want to touch back with us in May. Perfect. Now I can go into Nimble. I can set a task to contact that lead again in May, and Nimble will give me that reminder and it's connected to that individual's contact information. So that's one way that I'm using it. Another way that I use it is when I complete a job and I'm able to close out that deal and mark that deal as won. So the voiceover is completed, the audio is delivered, the invoice has been sent, I won the job. I can now set a task for maybe 30 or 60 days to remind myself to go looking for that project. That way, a reminder pops up in Nimble, hey, why don't you go looking for that job on YouTube? So then I can go looking for that job on YouTube. And if I find it, I can reach out to the client and say, hey, just wanted to say I found the video that we worked on together on YouTube. It was fantastic. Appreciate the opportunity. Looking forward to the next one, whatever. So having that task functionality built right into Nimble and having it be able to be directly associated with individual leads, that's a huge tool for me. Number 7 on the list is their Gmail integration. Now, this one may or may not matter to you depending on what you're using as your email provider. Nimble actually has a lot of really good integration with Gmail and with Office 365. And so for me, because I am a Gmail user, a lot of the tasks that I'm doing in Nimble, I can actually do right from within my Gmail inbox because it's integrated right within Gmail. So some days I don't even have to log into Nimble in order to be able to follow up with my database, add new connections and all of that sort of stuff, I can do it right from my inbox, which makes for a really efficient workflow. That saves me a lot of time. It's nice to be able to just operate out of my inbox some days and not have to have, a separate window open, for example, with my CRM. Now, again, that's not something that's necessary for everyone, but it certainly has become a very big part of my workflow. And it's one of the reasons why I just can't adapt any other CRM at this point, because I'm too used to having that workflow capability. Now, going along with that, the next one on the list is the Prospector Chrome extension. So there's an extension that you can download if you are a Google Chrome user. And even though I am an Apple fanboy, and I fully admit that I'm an Apple fanboy, I have had to adopt to using Chrome, mostly because of Nimble. There is a prospector widget. So one of the great places where this can come in handy, let's say you're on LinkedIn and you've made a new connection on LinkedIn and that person has expressed an interest in working with you. I can go to their LinkedIn page in Chrome. I can open the Nimble Prospector widget, hover over their profile name, and Nimble will automatically populate a contact record for that person. I don't fully understand all of the voodoo of the internet. All I know is that it works and it's seamless and it saves me a lot of data entry time. Now, this Prospector widget, by the way, it doesn't just work within LinkedIn. You can do that on any website. As long as you highlight over a clickable link, generally like an email address or something like that, it can auto-populate a lot of the information for you in your contact record, which is really, really nice. And again, that's a huge time saver. And again, one of the reasons why I have never been able to find another CRM that works for me, because of the workflow that I have built around that. Speaking of workflows, that is the next and final thing on the list. This is a relatively new aspect of Nimble. They rolled this out about a year ago, give or take. I had it in beta testing for a while, but they rolled it out wide maybe a year ago, maybe a little more than a year ago. And I was struggling to try to come up with some ways that I could use the workflow, but basically think of it as a staged project manager. So, for example, the one area where I used it was with the 12 voiceover gifts of Christmas, and I was able to create a bunch of individual stages for the 12 voiceover gifts of Christmas. People that I wanted to reach out to. Then I had a stage for when I had reached out to them. Then I had a stage for if they decided to donate a prize. Then I had a stage for when I had collected all of the prize information from them. And then I had a stage for when their information was promoted publicly online and to make sure that I was, following along. And then there was a stage for when I had sent them their winner's information. And it's basically a drag and drop thing, so I can drag contact records into whatever stage they are at, and it really makes for a nice kind of project management tool. So even though, again, I use Asana for that, or I've been using Asana for that for a lot of years, this is a relatively new feature in Nimble that actually could probably replace Asana if you were looking to do everything in one place. So let's very quickly recap. Number one on the list is database management and just being able to put in all of those custom fields that really allows me to put in contact records that become so much more searchable. Number two on the list was tagging. Again, being able to take it a step further by being able to tag for genre, being able to tag for geographic region. Think of a tag as any way that you would ultimately like to be able to search your database. If you attach a tag, your database now becomes searchable by that tag. Along with that, number three on the list, the sorting capabilities to be able to do those targeted campaigns, to make sure that only the right people are receiving messages. So you're not just sending emails to everybody in your database all the time, but you're actually being very targeted with those messages. Number four on the list was then that group messaging feature and the ability to send those group messages up to 100 a day you can do within Nimble. Number five, the automated touch cycles. This is essential to any CRM, I think. The ability for the CRM to prompt you, it's been, whatever you set, 30 days since you reached out to so-and-so. That way you can send another follow-up, bring yourself top of mind. The success is in the follow-up. You hear me talk about this all the time, and so having that feature is really, really important. Number six on the list was deals tracking, a really great way for me to track all of my auditions and know on any given moment in what stage an audition or a project is at. Is it in the audition stage? Is it in the quote stage? Is it in the accepted stage? Is it in the pending stage? Is it in the completed stage? Whatever. Number seven is the Gmail integration. Again, this is one that's primarily specific to Nimble. I'm sure there are other CRMs that do it. Streak is one that definitely has Gmail integration. That may or may not matter to you depending on whether or not you're using Gmail, but for me, it's a huge part of my workflow. And then along with that, number 8 on the list, which is the Chrome Prospector extension, which that makes my life so much easier. And once you played around with it, you would understand, wow, this is amazing. Number 9 is the ability to do tasks, setting tasks for specific and strategic purposes and attaching them to individuals with their contact records. And then number 10 on that list is working with the workflows and just being able to do some project management from right within Nimble, which is kind of nice as well. So if you are not yet using a CRM, there's a couple of things that I would say. First and foremost, the sooner you start with a CRM, the better, because the larger that your database gets, the harder it is going to be for you to get your CRM set up. When I started working with my CRM, I already had thousands of contacts, which meant that I literally had to go through thousands of contacts one by one and set up all of the custom data fields in order to get my database working the way that I ultimately wanted it to work. It was awful, like literally one of the worst things I've ever had to do. Totally worth it in the end, but totally miserable in the process. So the sooner you start with a CRM, the better. Second thing, when you have a CRM, you're going to be very tempted to want to try to import all of your contacts because you think it's going to be easier, do everything all in one big bulk move. That's actually not going to be easier. I actually recommend, and this is going to seem very counterintuitive, but stick with me for a minute. I actually recommend importing your contacts one at a time. And there's 2 reasons for that. First reason, if you're importing them one at a time, you can customize them as you go along. They're all going to have to be ultimately customized anyway, so if you do it one at a time, you're just getting the job done. The second reason is if you're importing them one at a time and you're customizing them as you go, it's also a really good opportunity to reach out to them as you are putting them into your system. That way, by the time you're done entering all of the people into your database, every one of the records has been customized for your database, and every one of the people have been contacted as you've gone through the process. And so I think that's another really important thing. The third thing I would say is figure out what the most important features are to you and determine very quickly, does this CRM offer those things? Because if it doesn't, there's no point in messing around. Just get to another CRM, right? Just start sooner with the new CRM. Don't waste your time. Now, if you are interested in taking Nimble for a test drive, I do have a deal that I've set up with Nimble. I think their standard trial is maybe 10 days. I just thought that wasn't enough. And so I do have a deal set up with Nimble. If you go to nimble.com/MarkScottVO, nimble.com/MarkScottVO, you can sign up there and get a 45-day trial. And I will put that information into the show notes if you want to check out that link. But nimble.com/MarkScottVO, get that 45-day trial. It really does give you the opportunity to play around with Nimble and decide whether or not it's the right fit for you. If you decide that Nimble is the right fit for you, I do offer a training program as well. And that training program is literally a step-by-step walkthrough. It's a screen flow. You see me in my Nimble, and I show you exactly how I've used it, exactly how I set it up, exactly how I'm taking advantage of all of the different features. And so it just helps you jump the learning curve a little bit if you feel overwhelmed by it. And that is available at markscottcoaching.com/shop, markscottcoaching.com/shop. And I can put that in the show notes as well. But there you go. That is the tool that I am using for CRM. I think putting a CRM into the mix was probably one of the single best decisions that I made for my voiceover business and from a marketing standpoint, because it made me stop forgetting people and it helped stop people from forgetting me because I was being so much more efficient with keeping myself top of mind. If you have a database of clients that you need to manage, you should be looking for a CRM. What are you using for a CRM? Is there another one that I didn't mention? Is there something else that you're using that you really enjoy? I'd love to hear about it. If you found this episode helpful, if you've learned anything from this episode, if you've got another CRM option that you would like to share, do me a favor, tag me in your Instagram stories @MarkScott. Let me know that you're listening, and I'd love to hear what your suggestions are. Thanks so much for listening, and I'll catch you on the next one.
The Everyday VOPreneur Podcast, Available everywhere fine podcasts are given away for free. Mostly, we think.
Having your voiceover demos easily playable and downloadable on your website is essential. The VoiceZam player lets you do that across any device and browser. There are also options for adding play buttons in your email signature, tracking your listens, and even putting videos in your demo player. Sign up now at voicezam.com/MarkScott and receive an instant $25 credit. For full details and to claim this offer, visit voicezam.com/MarkScott.
And see.
And that's a wrap. Thanks for hanging in. Thanks for hanging out. Want more VOpreneur goodness? Jump online at VOPreneur.com.